in grade 7 humility. I am teacher Jovelyn.
And I am teacher Laverne May.
And we are your English teachers for today. Communication plays a vital role in our day-to-day life. It helps us understand the people around us and vice versa. But try to imagine the world without the proper use of communication. What do you think the world would look like without people engaging in good conversations? Did you know that there are different strategies in how we can successfully convey information to other people? Do you want to know more about these things? If you want to know more about these things, just sit back, relax, and buckle up as we listen in today's session.
To start our discussion, let us first have an activity. And all we have to do is that to examine the images and figure out what these images are communicating. Are you ready, students? Alright, that's good to hear. Let us now begin our activity.
There are 4 images that will be flashed on the screen. Examine each illustration and figure out what these images are communicating.
First illustration. What do you think this image is communicating? Very good. The first illustration depicts that the boy is angry or irritated. How about the second illustration? Alright again. The second illustration is a symbol of no parking sign. Let us now move forward for our third illustration. What do you think this image is communicating? You are absolutely right. This image is a sign that someone is agreeing or someone is saying a good job. Now, how about the illustration number 4? What do you think this emoji is communicating? You are right again. This emoji is a symbol that someone is, yes, you are right, someone is happy. Now, you did a great job, students. Our activity became a success because we were able to figure out what those images communicated. Great job. You might be wondering why we had this kind of activity. The activity that we had only shows that there are many forms of communications that we are encountering every day. Not just about plain talking, but also communications brought by gestures, expressions, symbols, and even emojis we use in chatting. Our lesson for today is about the verbal and nonverbal cues in communication and ways and different strategies effective for interpersonal communication. Topic for today is about the verbal and nonverbal cues in communication, of which you can employ a variety of ways and strategies for effective interpersonal communication. Now, students, I have a question for you. What comes into your mind when you hear or when you think of the word communication? Did you think of someone engaging in the conversations? If you think that way, then you are all correct because that is the main concept of communication, particularly interpersonal communication. But what is communication? Let us all find out what communication is about.
Communication is a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior.
What does it mean?
It means that communication is about transferring thoughts, information, emotion, and ideas through gesture, voice, symbols, signs and expressions from one person to another.
Communication is a process that happens between a sender, the one who encodes the message, and the receiver, the one who decodes the message. There are two basic types of communication. These are the verbal and nonverbal communication. Have you heard about these two terms before? If not, don't worry because we will find out what this verbal and nonverbal communication is about.
Verbal communication refers to the form of communication in which message is transmitted verbally.
There are two types of verbal communication. These are the oral communication and the written communication. But let us first talk about oral communication.
Oral communication is a type of communication which happens through spoken words, conversations, and any messages or information that are shared or exchanged between one another through speech or word of mouth. There are three types of communication that can be done orally. First is the intrapersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication is a type of verbal communication that occurs in your own mind. It is basically the basis of your feelings and beliefs about something.
An example of intrapersonal communication is that when you make any kind of decisions, like you are thinking or deciding what to eat, what to wear, where to go, and etc. Any kind of conversation that occurs in your mind is an example of intrapersonal communication. Another type of oral communication is a small group communication. What do we mean by a small group communication?
A small group communication is a type of communication within formal or informal groups or teams. It is a group interaction that results in decision making, problem solving, and discussion within an organization.
An example of this is a group planning a surprise birthday for someone. The last type of oral communication is the interpersonal communication. Let us all find out what this interpersonal communication is about.
Interpersonal communication is a type of communication that takes place between two individuals and is thus a one-on-one conversation. An example of this is a conversation with your friend, a dialogue with your teacher, and an interview with your boss.
Now, you have learned about the three types of oral communication. These are the intrapersonal communication, small group communication, and the interpersonal communication. Now, let us move on to the second type of communication, which is the written communication. What does it mean when we say written communication? Let us all find out.
Written communication happens through any word written or often written sign which refers to the language uses in any medium. An example of a written communication are newspapers, printed word documents, letters, books, and magazines.
Those are the different types of verbal communication. Now, let us talk about nonverbal communication. But what is nonverbal communication?
Nonverbal communication is any communication without word of mouth, spoken words, conversation, and written languages.
Nonverbal communication happens through signs, symbols, colors, gestures, body language, or any kind of facial expressions. Now, I have a question for you. Is saying I love you to your sister a sign of nonverbal communication or not a nonverbal communication? What is your answer? You are right. It is not a nonverbal communication because saying I love you to someone can be done orally, either spoken or written communication. For the second question, you gave your crush a wink. Is that a sign of nonverbal communication or not a nonverbal communication? What is your answer? That is a sign of nonverbal communication because wink is a facial expression made by briefly closing one eye. Great job, students! You are now able to differentiate verbal from nonverbal communication.
There are 7 different types of nonverbal communication. Number 1. Facial expressions. Facial expressions are the principal source of feedback. Alert communicators display and interpret facial expressions accurately. They modify their messages to produce the effect they intend. Number 2. Eye contact. Eye contact is the expressive element in face-to-face communication. Number 3. Body movements and posture. These are considered as an important type of nonverbal communication because the way you stand and hold your body also sends messages. Number 4. Gestures. Gestures are the movements that you make with a part of your body, especially your hands. Number 5. Haptics. Haptics is also known as touching. Number 6. Proxemics. Proxemics refers to the amount of space that individuals naturally maintain between each other, which communicates meanings. Number 7. Voice. Voice is the way in which a message is spoken. Also, voice is as important as what is said. Those are the 7 different types of nonverbal communication.
Now, let's assess your learnings about the discussion. The first question is, what is the most important thing between verbal and nonverbal cues in conversation? Do you have any idea about that? Can you share your ideas to us? The most important thing between nonverbal and verbal cues in conversation is indeed what? Do you have any idea about that? Yes, your answer is correct. It is communication. For you to fully understand and have an additional idea about how important is communication in conversation. So let's have the conversation example.
Hello? Hello. Can I speak to Sally, please? Speaking. Hi, this is Hannah. Hi, Hannah. What's up? Kate is sick. That's too bad. How about going to see her? That's a good idea. What time shall we meet? How about at 2? Sounds good. Let's meet at the bus stop. Okay, see you then. How are you? I'm okay now. I can go to school on Monday. Good. Kate, here's an apple pie. I made it for you. Thanks. I like apple pie.
The objective of every communication is to help people understand what we are trying to say.
And before we end our lesson, please answer the question in the screen. As an audio and visual learners, does this way of presenting the lesson addresses your needs? In what way? Please write your answers in the comment section below.
In conclusion, the effective communication takes place to achieve good communication skills through verbal and nonverbal methods. One should be capable and ready to identify the combination of communication functions which may bring out the success in the communication process. Thank you so much, students, for listening, and I hope that you have learned something from our discussion for today.